This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365. And welcome back, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell. This is the X-Zone. We're coming to you from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Worldwide toll-free 1-800-610-7035. Email xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com. And our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. My guest this hour is the one and only Jeff Belanger. He's been studying and writing about supernatural for regional and national publications since 1997. Jeff's the founder of GhostVillage.com, the largest supernatural community on the web, and the author of more than 13 books, I believe, including The World's Most Haunted Place, Our Haunted Lives, and The Ghost Files. Jeff lectures throughout the United States and has appeared on more than 100 radio and television programs. And he's got a revised edition of the Encyclopedia of Haunted Places, ghostly locales from around the world. And Jeff's website is www.ghostvillage.com. Jeff, welcome back to the X-Zone. Long time no talk, my friend.
I know, Rob. Great to be back with you guys in the X-Zone Nation. I missed you.
Yeah, we missed you too, Jeff. But you're such a busy guy. You're writing and doing research for a television series. You're doing lecturing. You're writing your books. Are you still doing your TV show?
Yeah, well, the 30-odd minutes. Yeah, I've been doing that for 2.5 years now. But that's that's for the love of it. It's all nonprofit, but still having a ball. Having some fun with the subject.
It may be nonprofit, but knowing you're certainly getting a lot of information out there, and educating people, because this is what a lot of people who do who write about haunted places and ghosts actually do. They're historians.
Here's the funny thing about history is that we don't really know everything that happened. I mean, even if you look at the history books, it's our best guess.
Yeah,
is all that history is. And history, of course, told by the winners, but they're full of individual stories. And I think we lose sight of that, especially when you're dealing with, big things like wars and conquering nations and things like that. You read about 50,000 wounded or killed, and those numbers are cold and meaningless, but individual stories are powerful. And when you learn one individual story, and then you can multiply that by 50,000, it starts to have a lot more meaning than just statistics. And ghosts, legends, all of that stuff allows us to get into the history in a unique way, in a way that we've always done this, by the way. I mean, this isn't new. This goes back thousands of years, tens of thousands of years, as long as we've shared these stories. But it is a unique perspective on our ancestors and the history that left a mark before we got here.
Jeff, do you think we're any closer to finding out what ghosts are, how they exist, how they traverse time and space? Are any of these mysteries closer to being solved?
Yes and no. Yes, for the individual. I mean, there's individuals that are, the subject's so popular now that people are trying to seek out their own answers, and people have found their own answers. And so you ask a certain individual, and they'll say, no, I know exactly how it works. Now, that's kind of not good enough for me. I don't know how we would ever prove it on a global scale. But I do think that if you step back to more of a philosophical approach as opposed to a scientific one, I think we're getting closer to an understanding of why we need them, why they're here, why they're a part of us, and the big questions that it puts on all of us. What happens after we die? What mark do I want to leave? How do I want to be remembered? All of those big things.
Jeff, stand by, my friend. You and I have to take our 2-minute commercial break. More with Jeff Belanger when we come back from this 2-minute commercial break. We're talking about ghosts this hour. And Jeff's revised edition of the Encyclopedia of Haunted Places, Ghostly Locales from Around the World, is now available. And his website, www.ghostvillage.com. This is the X Zone, a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until 2 a.m. Eastern, and then repeated around the clock on various radio networks. Check with your local radio network if you'd like to find us on your dial, or visit www.xzoneradiotv.com. My name is Rob McConnell. This is the X Zone. We'll be back in 2. Don't go away.
This is Johanna Carroll, host of Dialogue with Divinity on the X Zone Broadcast Network. While walking along Kaanapali Beach in Maui this past year, I kept discovering all these shells and coral in the shape of hearts. My dialogue with Divinity was very simple. Do you want me to do a retreat to heal people's hearts in Maui next year? And of course, the answer was yes. As a master spiritual teacher, I am offering you a neat retreat called Rise, May 8th through the 12th, 2017, and the chance of a lifetime to rest at a 5-star resort for 5 days and experience a spiritual renewal of your heart and soul. Kaanapali is one of the top 5 beaches in the world. This stunning resort has undergone a $40 million renovation. I walked the entire property, checked out the room choices on your behalf, and I must say it is stunning. Our conference room faces the ocean with sliding glass doors. Maui is known as Mother Maui because it is a soft, gentle, healing energy. In the embrace of Mother Maui, you will feel yourself rising from the limitations of an ordinary life to an extraordinary journey of peace, bliss, and harmony. A greater sense of clarity. Our Rise Retreat ignites renewal in the sacred elements of air, water, earth, fire, and wind. There's plenty of free time to enjoy all that Maui has to offer. A small deposit is required now to reserve your space, as this retreat, it will sell out. For more details, please go to johannacarroll.com and register today. Aloha, and I'll see you in mystical Maui.
Explanation, Jeff Belanger is my special guest this hour. Jeff's new book, The World's Most Haunted Places, is now available. Visit his website, www.ghostvillage.com. Jeff, what are some of the theories that you've heard about what ghosts are and their reason for being?
Well, there's so many that go around. You know, I did a book years ago, and I think I was up to about a dozen of the theories that get kicked around. And since then, I've kind of whittled it down to 3, which really, I think quite simply, a ghost is it's a direct connection to our past. It's a way for living people to bond with each other in our present, because you only share these stories, especially the personal ones, with someone you trust, who you think won't think you're goofy for telling them, you know, whatever it is you went through. And it's a way to explore our own inevitable future, because we're all going to die one day, and you know that's the big mystery, what comes next. But if you want to get into the realm of the paranormal investigator, there's so many, everything from a slip in time, which I think has some merit. You know, maybe what you're seeing is not a ghost at all. You're just seeing a vision of the past that collided with our present, and interpreted that as a ghost, which of course you would. I mean, something's out of place from the distant past. To an impression, a psychic impression that's left on a location, and I think that has merit too. And if you think about the energy of a room, when you walk into a room after a couple have been arguing, you can just tell.
Oh,
you
definitely,
can feel
yeah.
it. Yeah, you walk in and you say, "Oh man, what just happened in here?" And that was just an argument. Imagine multiplying that argument and turning it into a murder or a multiple murder or something else.
Or a battlefield.
Of course,
Yeah.
right. And then we can go on, and I think it leaves a mark. And some of us, especially when you know the history, when you know what took place there, you're almost tuning into this movie that just replays right at that location. It's not intelligent or interactive, but it's just floating right there. And so I think that has some merit as well. And then there's the traditional definition, some discarnate soul that's just earthbound for some reason, still hanging around, that maybe doesn't know they're dead or whatever. And, you hear people who have accounts that seem to fit that definition as well. Someone passes on, someone they knew in life, and they communicate. They say, wow, Grandma, you died 2 weeks ago, but you're still standing right here, and maybe there's some kind of unfinished business on whichever side of the veil, the living or the dead, that holds that person here for some reason. We don't know, and we won't know till we die, but it's certainly intriguing to explore.
More and more people are becoming interested in the topic of ghosts, and I'm sure you've seen this as you go out and do your lectures. And what are some of the questions that you get asked, Jeff?
Oh, yeah. People, it is interesting. People will ask, okay, what happens after we die? It's a big question. And that's really interesting to me because my response is usually at first, who would I be to tell you that? I have no qualifications to give you that answer. And then I started to realize it's a question that people have been asking the religions of the world for millennia. People want an answer. They want it neat and in a package with a little bow on it. The reality is you kind of have to go find out for yourself. You have to get on that quest, do your own personal exploration. It may lead you to a religion, which is great because there'd be a whole support system there. It may lead you into the cemetery with someone like me, in the middle of the night looking for old legends and old ghosts that might still be lurking. But that seems to be the big one is give me some kind of answer, please. I'm so confused. Yeah. My religion tells me one thing, science and skeptics tell me another, yet I've had these experiences. I watch these television shows. I read these books. And I'm confused, and I really want that answer. And sadly, the answer is you got to do the work to get it. You got to go through that. And people want to know, will a ghost hurt you? And most of the time, it seems the answer would be no. But yet, a story comes up now and again, like the Bell Witch, of the Bell Witch Cave in Tennessee, where she's allegedly, a ghost that killed somebody, killed a living person, poisoned him. And so, every now and then we get these exceptions to the rule that just keep Hollywood in business and all of us just a little bit freaked out.
To what extent do you think Hollywood plays in the entire ghost phenomenon?
Huge. It's huge. Hollywood is, we can blame them for whatever we want, but the reality is Hollywood in general is a reflection of society. We want this stuff. If we didn't want it, we wouldn't buy tickets, the movies wouldn't sell,
true.
And they would go out of business. So the reality is that they're responding to what culture, to what us people are asking for. And ghosts are frightening to some people. And there's been an interesting shift in the last few years. When you and I started talking years ago, ghosts were still intriguing in and of themselves. Ghosts were enough. And now they're not. Now they have to be demons. We're not afraid of ghosts anymore. And that just happened in, 4 or 5 years. That usually takes generations. And so the response from Hollywood has been to keep pushing things darker and darker, which is good in a weird way, because I think what's going to happen is they'll go too far. They'll push it past the point of acceptance to where everyone goes, okay, hold on a minute. There just can't be a demon around every corner, what's really going on here? And then maybe people start to think for themselves, and we kind of have this shift back to center, which I'm hoping is due just about now.
Jeff, there are many organizations and clubs that are out there that claim to be research organizations, ghost hunters. And I don't know why they use that term ghost hunter, because you're not going to kill it. It's already dead. Or you're not going to catch it.
I love it. I love the term ghost hunter. Why
Really?
not? That term. Do you know how old that term is?
No.
It's funny because some people think it only goes back to 2004 with the Sci-Fi Channel's Ghost Hunter show. And it actually goes back at least to 1922 with Harry Price, who wrote the book Confessions of a Ghost Hunter. He was a member of the Ghost Club in England, and really, I think, was the first person to really coin that term. Might not have been the first to use it. So that term is going on almost a century old now. And the reality is we're looking for something. We are hunting, even if you don't intend to kill it. But there's other trophies that these groups take, and I understand. The trophy is the evidence. We go hunting, and though we don't come back with a head to mount on our wall, we come back with an EVP or a strange photograph or some weird, reading on our EMF meter. And for them, they have this spiritual experience through a medium that's electronic, a camera or an audio recorder or an EMF meter, which was designed to find electromagnetic forces and not
But there
ghosts.
are many organizations that have the most up-to-date technological equipment, but they just don't know how to use it, and they get many false readings that they believe are the real McCoy. So how does John Q. Public differentiate between the credible and the wannabe credibles?
That's a really difficult question to answer. And what I would ask John Q. Public to do is recognize that some groups call themselves paranormal researchers or whatever, and what they're actually doing is they're out kind of just looking for legends and looking to have their own experiences, which is perfectly okay.
Sure
I'm not
is.
knocking it whatsoever. It's the same as if you went to a church or a mosque or a synagogue and you watched someone who was just, hands in the air, standing up, stomping their feet, moved by the Spirit. And you could be sitting right next to that person going, wow, I'm listening to the same words you are, and yet I'm not feeling what you're feeling.
Just not getting into the groove.
Yeah, right. And that doesn't make that person wrong. That person is having a spiritual experience. You can call it self-induced, and maybe it is, or maybe they were singled out for whatever reason. But I think that's what's kind of similar when you have someone who's walking through and not knowing how to use the equipment and getting a reading and saying, this reading validates what I believe. It validates my faith that there are ghosts here. And they get excited and they yell and show everybody what they're doing. And for them, it's a spiritual experience the same as going in church. The problem is they call themselves a researcher and then put that forth as evidence to the fact, when the difference is it's not really objective evidence. It's quite slanted. So I think John Q. Public, I would say, please try for yourself. If you think a place is haunted, go there, have the experience. You don't need the equipment. You're born with it. We have eyes and ears. If it's there, you'll see it. If it's to be heard, you'll hear it. If it's to be sensed, you'll sense it. And I actually, over the years, I've kind of done away with the equipment because I don't know what it's reading. We live on a big magnet
That's
that
right,
sets all these things off. It's called Earth, So if there's a ghost there, I just want to see it.
I'm sure there are people listening around the world, Jeff, who, because of the new affiliates and networks we're on now, have not had the opportunity of hearing you on air. And what was it that drove you to your quest to get so involved in the paranormal as you are?
It started because I was a journalist. I was a writer working for newspapers and magazines right out of college. And in October, you go looking for ghost stories.
Yeah.
That's features. That's what you do. And we were no different. And I got hooked because I have a love of history. I always have. And I got hooked researching the history, finding out, wow, there's things in history that took place that support some of these legends. And when you interview enough people in any capacity, you start to get a sense for who's confused, delusional, and who's been really stirred by whatever it is they experience. And I just started to realize these people can't all be lying. Their senses are as good as mine, their eyes, their ears, all of those things. And so that turned into a website back in 1999. Those newspaper articles turned into the website. The website turned into books. And then at some point, when you're a journalist, you try to be objective. But if you just submerge yourself in a subject long enough, you're going to land on one side of the fence or other. You can only ride that fence so long. And I had a few experiences that I couldn't explain. My bottom line was, if that's not a ghost, I can't possibly tell you what else it could have been. And so I admit now, I'm tainted. I stand on the side of believer, but I'm still compelled by these stories because I think it's way bigger than just life after death. It's history, it's psychology, it's sociology, it's all of these, it's science, it's all these wonderful subjects all mashed into one.
My friends, stand by. You and I have to take our break for the news at the bottom of the hour. X-Zone Nation, Jeff Belanger is our special guest. We're talking about ghosts, and by the way, Jeff's new book is entitled The World's Most Haunted Places. His website, the very popular www.ghostvillage.com. That's www.ghostvillage.com. Speaking about ghost stories, the October issue of the X Chronicles will be out in 10 days from today. You'll be able to go to www.xchronicles-newspaper.com/publisher and read it online with the compliments of the X Zone, the X Chronicles, and our advertisers. More than 200,000 people went to that website just to read our 9/11 tribute. We're expecting another large number of people to read our most popular issue, which is the October issue. We'll be back on the other side of this commercial break as we continue from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, with yours truly, Rob McConnell, and my very special guest, a person that I'm proud to call a friend of mine, Jeff Belanger.
This is the X Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365. Exonation, Jeff Belanger is our special guest this hour. www.ghostvillage.com. His latest book is The World's Most Haunted Places. And Jeff, what was it that happened to you that you just couldn't explain, that put you on the fence side of the believers?
Yeah, it was. It actually the first time something happened. It was in the catacombs of Paris, France. And it was an amazing place. I was down there completely alone, and I see this shadow, the size of a man, move from the right side of the tunnel to the left and back again. Keep in mind, I'm surrounded by 6 million human skeletons at this point that are set out in a very macabre pattern, a very intricate pattern. And as soon as it happened, my head's running through a quick checklist. Could someone have gotten by me? No, that's impossible. My arms stretched out in both directions would have touched skulls on both sides, so you would have literally bumped into me. Is there some side tunnel I missed? Nope. I can see clearly in front of me. There's no perspectives changed. Is there lighting on the floor that a little mouse could cast a great big shadow? Nope. The lighting's at my shoulders aiming down. And when you run out of ideas, all I was left with was, that was a ghost. That was something I can't explain in any other way. I'm not expecting the whole world to believe me. All I can tell you is that this stuff doesn't happen to me very often. In 15 years of doing this all over the world in creepy places, it's happened just 2 or 3 times where I've had that experience where I say, whoa, I don't know how to explain that any other way. And since then, there's been a few others, but they're life-changing. Time slows down. The whole event's been burned into my permanent memory. I can close my eyes right now and relive that moment. It's changing. It sinks in. The meaning of it sinks in over hours and then days and then weeks, where you say to yourself, okay, I saw what everyone else is talking about now. And you start to hear the stories differently when people tell you about their experiences, and you start to see the world a little bit differently. It's bigger. It's bigger than just, flesh and blood and we're here and then gone. That's what I believe. It's the conclusion I've reached just by looking for ghosts.
The most haunted place you've ever been to?
Oh man, I think it's pretty close between the catacombs of Paris, just because those skeletons are staring at you, and there's a prison in Ohio in the United States called oh my gosh, I just drew blank. Sorry, Mansfield Reformatory. also called the Ohio State Reformatory. If you saw the movie Shawshank Redemption,
yes.
that's where they filmed it. That at the after the prison had closed, they filmed it at that prison. So you've seen it. And I'm not psychic or sensitive at all. In fact, ask anyone, I'm psychically insensitive, much to the chagrin of some people. But I walked into that building, and the paint's peeling. You're looking at a 6-story high stack of cages where criminals were kept. And I just had this shiver run through my whole body, and I went, whoa, this place is haunted, and that just doesn't happen. It's exciting, it's thrilling. We were watching shadows move, and you try to debunk the experience as soon as it happens, and when you can't, again, you're left with, I just saw something, the whole building, sounds are coming out of corners, and you can't account for them. Just an amazing place. And when you think about the idea of a prison, this is where mostly bad people were kept. I'm sure there were some exceptions, a few people that didn't do it, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, and all that. But the despair that a prisoner must feel. You're in cages. In the summer, it's hot. In the winter, it's cold. You're surrounded by steel, and your freedom's taken away from you. You feel that despair in the air.
Unreal. Jeff, in your book, The World's Most Haunted Places, what would you classify as the world's most haunted place?
Yeah, that's a tough one. That's like saying, who's your favorite child?
All right, give me the top 5.
Yeah, the top 5. Yeah, I would have to say the Catacombs of Paris,
right.
Certainly, was a location, and Ohio State Reformatory.
Okay, that's
and
2.
And then Waverly Hills Sanatorium in Louisville, Kentucky, an old tuberculosis sanatorium where lots of people, unfortunately, came to die. And again, you stand in this building. It's empty now. There's no windows. It's just the breeze moves through these old rooms. And the one horrific scene I just couldn't get out of my head was, imagine you're a patient here, 400 rooms, 400 patients at a time, and the coughing, just the coughing, nothing else, all night long. Everybody's sick with tuberculosis. They're coughing, coughing, coughing all night. It would be maddening. I can only imagine you would lose your sanity in a few days of that, and you just feel that sadness and despair. So,
all right, let me ask you this then, Jeff. I'm sure researchers have gone there and done EVPs. Has anyone ever come up with an EVP of a ghost coughing?
I've heard all kinds of strange sounds. I've even heard the sounds of a ghost urinating on an EVP, believe it or not, where everyone's saying, okay, wait a minute, there's not even a bathroom near us. What would cause that very distinct sound? And, although I haven't heard coughing, I wouldn't doubt it.
How much creed or how much reliability do you put into an EVP?
Unless it's really, really clear, meaning if I played it for 10 individual people separately, and all of them agreed, it says, get out of the room right now.
Right.
I don't give it much creed at all. And the reason is audio recorders, which some people don't even realize, they can pick up radio signals.
Sure can.
They can and do.
Yeah.
Someone once sent me they said, I got this crazy EVP. It's perfect Morse code. And they played it for me, and I said, yeah, you're not kidding. That is perfect Morse code, faintly in the background. And we brought it into a wave editor and looked at the dots and dashes and went to an online converter, and sure enough, everything was a letter or a number, but it didn't make any sense. It was like XJ9R5, whatever. I looked that up, and it turns out it was just a call sign for a radio beacon that was just broadcasting its call sign over and over and over in Morse code, and that beacon was located right near where the EVP was captured. And when we figured all that out, we went, wow, this little audio recorder just picked up a signal that was just floating around, that area.
In your opinion, are the digital recorders any better than the magnetic tape recorders?
I don't. And again, I don't do this a whole lot, Rob. I mean, for me, it's about the human experience and the story and the history.
Right.
But I've seen people get results with both. And there's people who swear by the old analog tapes because you just use one side and then you don't use the other, and you don't record over the tape so you don't have any bleed through. I don't know. Some of these recorders are pretty fancy schmancy. If the EVP is in direct response with something that was said in the room, then it gets real interesting and it's clear. Because then, what are the odds that you're going to pick up a radio signal that says, "Yes, I died here as a child"? I mean, at that moment. In that
I've often wondered if the recorders are actually picking up the thought process of the people who are there, because after all, as we've said, it's electromagnetic, and there's so many experiments have been done with ESP.
Yep.
That I often wonder if it is the desire and the will of the researchers or the ghost hunters that are actually fabricating the EVP.
Rob, I think that is absolutely a possibility, maybe even likely with certain people, and not only with the audio recorders, with the EMF meters.
Yeah.
People will talk to these K2 meters, which are it's an electromagnetic field reader that just has lights, green to red, that just light up, and they'll light up. Hey, light twice if you're here. Boop, boop, up they go. And you wonder, are you projecting that thought and setting off that meter? Which, by the way, is still really awesome and incredible and worth studying. And holy cow, and all that stuff, paranormal for sure.
Well, is it paranormal, or is this part of the human aura that has been caught on Kirlian photography for so many years?
I think like you said, we've proved ESP in the lab. Where basically a machine that's the equivalent of a coin toss can be manipulated by someone just willing it to go one way or the other. Now, not 99 out of 100 times, but maybe 501 out of 1,000 kind of thing. But measurable enough that it's measurable. And if we can do that just by intent and will, who knows what we're capable of? Especially when you're out there trying to have a spiritual experience, your senses are heightened because of that titillating fear of being in this creepy location. I think it's absolutely possible and amazing and worth studying, and still an incredible, human experiment to see people setting off these meters and imprinting audio onto recorders from the mind. That definitely deserves further study.
Jeff, in the many years that you've been writing, have you come across any country on this planet of ours that does not have ghosts?
I have yet to hear a story from Antarctica. And that doesn't mean that they're not there. It just means I haven't really heard about it, and honestly, I haven't looked that far. However, that would be about it. Wherever there are people, there seem to also be ghosts.
Is there one country or one society on this planet that believes in ghosts more than any other?
When I was in England, and touring some of the old buildings and old castles and things, I remember the tour guide, very historical, even stuffy, by most definitions, giving various descriptions. And I said, hey, do you think this place could be haunted? And he looked at me indignant and said, of course it's haunted. It's a 700-year-old manor house. I mean,
I see.
Don't be ridiculous, And I thought that was a great answer. Of course it's haunted. I think the older the culture, the older the buildings and the history around you, the more accepting that society is, and Europe seems to embrace its ghosts, or just take them as more matter of fact. Newer regions, especially the United States and Canada, where there's maybe various religious influences, may not want to talk about them just yet, but give them time. We'll get there. Another century or two, we'll all be talking about it.
Have you heard any ghost stories pertaining to brand new homes or brand new buildings?
I have. Not only that, I've even heard of old stories pertaining to brand new buildings. The Whaley House in Old Town San Diego, California. This was built in the late 1800s, and allegedly it was haunted the first week that the construction was complete, because it was built on the grounds where they had the gallows, where they hung criminals. And Thomas Whaley had actually witnessed one of the executions of a guy they named the Yankee Jim Robinson, and he was hung for. I mean, the punishment way outweighed the crime. He more or less borrowed a boat, but of course, steal is a fine line, and they hung him for it. He was even surprised. No one could believe it. It was a hangable offense. So they hung him for it right on these grounds, and the first week, Thomas Whaley writes in his journal, I'm hearing boot stomps upstairs when I know I'm the only one in the building. I think it's the ghost of Yankee Jim Robinson, who died here just a year ago, before we built this place. So it comes up, and it's not just, from the 1800s. It comes up in modern times. I spoke to a woman who lives in a house that was only 20 years old or so. She was watching Civil War soldiers out of her back window, and they seemed to be walking a few feet above the ground. And she figures, the property was graded. They graded the land for a lawn and things, and that's probably about where the ground would have been before the house was ever put there. So yeah, the stories come up. It doesn't seem to be a rule that it has to be some creepy old building.
Are children more perceptible to ghosts and spirits than adults?
I think there's a wonderful honesty with children that they don't judge an experience; they just see it and report it if they do. And I would say so. I would say we haven't taught them what's real and what's not real. And being a dad myself, I know when your daughter's scared in the middle of the night, it's very although you might be tempted to say no, ghosts are real. It's okay to talk about them and see them. It's also for the sake of sleep and sanity.
Exactly.
Very easy to say, no, it's just your imagination. It's just this. It's just that. Go back to sleep. Maybe it's important that some of us ignore it or forget that they're there.
Jeff, are there any statistics when it comes to who sees a ghost, the age group, the ethnicity of the person, the religious beliefs? Has anybody done a detailed study?
They haven't, and it's too bad because the Gallup, which of course does the Gallup polls and things like that, they put out a study about every 10 years on paranormal.
Yeah.
And it's a great study. It's very comprehensive. What do you believe in? And it goes everything from angels, ghosts, demons, all that other stuff. And belief has been on the rise quite a bit, especially in the last 10 years. It went from I think the increase was something like 30% increase in the amount of people who believe in this stuff. However, they really didn't get into too much of and I bought the study because I was so intrigued by it. They didn't get into ethnicity and age groups. I think it's on the rise. Yeah. Certainly, if you talk to people who work with elderly folks, they seem to have experiences right near the end of their lives.
Oh, big time, yeah.
Yeah, so it's worth a look. Let's call Gallup.
All right. Giddy up. Let's call
Conference of
Gallup.
Men.
All right, you and I have to take our final break, my friend. Please stand by. Exo Nation, Jeff Belanger is our special guest. Belanger in Canada, Belanger in the U.S. www.ghostvillage.com. It's always a great pleasure having Jeff with us. One of the hardest working people in the paranormal world today, and Jeff and I will be back on the other side of this commercial break as we continue from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. My name is Rob McConnell. XZoneRadioTV.com is our website, and once again, Jeff Belanger's website, www.ghostvillage.com.
In over 36 years in law enforcement, I've learned a few things. The most important is the proper gathering and preservation of evidence is vital to putting the bad guy behind bars. It's no different in the world of paranormal investigation. Whether it's the search for the afterlife, cryptozoology, extraterrestrials, and UFOs, how we gather that evidence of their existence, preserve that same evidence, and present it to a court of our peers will make the ultimate difference in proving the existence of worlds and entities that are beyond our imagination. Come with me on a journey that seeks to prove with undisputable evidence what man has struggled to believe for centuries. Join me, Larry Lawson, host of the Paranormal Stakeout, coming to the X-Zone Broadcast Network. Check out the broadcast schedule for Paranormal Stakeout with yours truly, Larry Lawson, at www.xzbn.net. For more information about me, my travels, and my team, check out our website at www.paranormalfbi.com or join us on Facebook at Florida Bureau of Paranormal.
I am Dr. Carl O'Helvey, founder, president of a new cancer foundation focusing on evidence-based physical, mental, and spiritual interventions, including natural cancer cures, prayer, meditation, affirmations, nutrition, and other related holistic cancer prevention and cure modalities. These are used in cancer education, research, and financing care. I ask for your help to continue this important work by donating at www.holisticcancerfoundation.com.
You're listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. X-Zone Nation, Jeff Belanger is our special guest this hour, www.ghostvillage.com. ghostvillage.com. First of all, Jeff, as always, thank you ever so much for sharing your valuable time with us here in the X Zone. Always a great pleasure talking to you. What are you going to be up doing in the future? You know, you've got your lectures now. You're working on a TV series. You're doing your own TV show. You're writing. What's left for you to accomplish?
You know, that's the thing. There's so much more out there. I'm really diversifying in the paranormal in the last year or two. I love ghosts. I love supernatural, but I'm really getting into the other legends as well. The cryptozoology, ufology. All of that stuff intrigues me, you know, because, you know, like I said a few years ago, you jump on the fence and you get on the side of believer, and it's not really fair to say, yeah, I believe in ghosts, but you UFO people are nuts, you know, like it's just not, you know, who does that?
Yeah,
so
I do.
I've been getting into it. I think it's so intriguing, you know, and that begs another big question: are we alone in the universe? Do we know every creature that walks the earth with us? And there's so many mysteries left to be solved, and I just want to dive into all of them.
Well, you know, with what happened this week, or the last week, I should say, where Einstein's he's just getting blown out of the water thanks to the events that are happening at this CERN in Switzerland. You know, it's
sure.
You know, anything is possible now, and we knew this was going to happen as we progressed in time, and our knowledge base became that much richer than it was in the time of Einstein, that what he believed to be right was going to be proved to be wrong.
You know, and even Einstein acknowledged once you get down to the real minutia, for the experimenter even to be in the room could affect the outcome of the experiment, which is funny because all the stuff we've talked about this hour, you know, affecting the K2 meter, the world around us. I believe that humans are incredible. We can create our own reality. We can create our own destiny. We can bend the universe to our will because we've seen great people do it. So anyone who feels like they're in a rut of some kind, you have the ability to get yourself out of it. I have no doubt in the human spirit.
And if you really want to get out of the rut, go to www.ghostvillage.com and check out everything that Jeff Belanger is doing. Jeff, as always, a great pleasure talking to you. Where can our listeners go and see you? Where are you going to be lecturing in the near future?
I will be in the Chicago Ghost Conference this weekend. The following weekend, I'll be in Austin, Texas for the Central Texas Ghost Conference. The weekend after that, I'll be at Haunted History Night in Massachusetts. So all around.
Take care of yourself. Safe travels, and please give my very best to your lovely family.
Sounds great, Rob. Thank you much.
Take care, buddy. Exonation, Jeff Belanger has been my guest this hour. www.ghostvillage.com. That's www.ghostvillage.com. When we come back from the news at the top of the hour at 6.5 minutes past, more from the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology as the X Zone continues with yours truly, Rob McConnell, from our studios, where? Right here in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go